Hi, Darksteel here, and the weather is yo-yoing a little bit outside. It seems like every day it's either hot or cold, or hot or cold. I mean, warm, not hot, but, you know, it's all over the place. So if you're noticing a fluctuation in how I'm dressed, that's a key ingredient in that. But being that it's cold outside and not great conditions for being out there working, I thought I would do an inside project video with something kind of neat that I got as a belated Christmas present from my brother, which is this. It's a Smith's Sharpening Kit. And first, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a little review on this as I try it out kind of for the first time. I pulled it out and kind of played with it a little bit and put all the pieces in the right spots and everything, but I hadn't really gotten into using it just yet. I could have also gotten one of my nicer knives to do this test with, but I thought a better test would be kind of seeing what it can do to a not-so-nice knife. And so I got one that doesn't even seem to have a brand of any kind on it. It's just one of those little cheapo knives. Great pocket knife for just carrying around on you. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but and I've had this one for years and years. But since it's not the best blade I have, I thought it'd be neat to see how good of an edge this can put on it. So let's get into this. And first, as you can see, there's a little instruction manual in there. As you can see, it's got all of its parts. This is the little jig, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, I think jig is right. I think sharpening jig is probably the correct term. If I'm wrong, just go ahead and tell me in the comments. But looking briefly at this the other day, I figured out that you do this. Now, I jokingly said this is one of those things for people who don't know what they're doing, but if you do a lot of knife sharpening, you know that it's not a given that you're going to remember how to sharpen knives very well on any given day. Sometimes, at least for me, sometimes it seems like that's a skill that comes and goes. So then I'm going to want to loosen this a little bit more. Okay, and then we put that in there. There we go. There's a little flat edge in there that it catches on. And then we're going to tighten this down on there. There we go. Get it nice and tight. Tighten this down a little bit. Nice and tight. Okay, now that doesn't want to move. Cool. Okay, so my phone does a really neat trick where essentially what happens is I record a whole video, go into great detail, talk for a while, cover a lot of subjects, click stop, and it tells me video not saved. So that's fun. So I don't know what all I've covered. I try to do these in little segments and then I add them all together later, and I don't know what all I've covered, but I've already started in on sharpening the knife. It's actually 2 videos that it did that to me on so far, but I put a little bit of this oil on the stone, found the slot that it's supposed to go into. Okay, and then once you find the slot that it's supposed to go into, and that's basically by finding the angle of the edge, you, based on what it says in my little book, try to move with a certain amount of consistency, like so. And as far as sharpening a knife, the idea is, because there's a bunch of different people who have a bunch of different theories, but it all comes down to basically this. You want to get the knife edge to have as thin of an apex as you can, so that it's, you know, that's how it gets sharper. And it doesn't matter if you run the blade one way or if you run it the other or if you go back and forth or anything like that. What matters is that you consistently hold your stone or whatever it is that you're using, your strop, anything like that, at the same angle the entire time. And that's where this little thing here, the guide, that's where it helps, is that you know that while you're moving your hand back and forth, you're not going like this all over the place. You're working in one solid pattern. And I feel an edge starting to form there. Okay, so then I'm going to flip this over, and I think it was this one. Should have taken note of that. Yeah, I think it's that one that I was using. And you start working the other side in the same way. And you know what? That's feeling a little dry. I'm going to add a little bit more oil. And I know there's probably several people that are going to watch this video and tell me what I'm doing wrong and tell me how I'm wrong about how you're supposed to sharpen and everything like that. And again, I think that it's good to have your own way and your own thing that you're comfortable with and everything. But I mean, I sharpen knives professionally. Now, this is the first time ever using one of these. But I sharpen knives professionally and get my knives down to a really sharp edge every time. I have no trouble with it. And so speaking just from my viewpoint, I really think it's more about going with what's comfortable for you than actually the right or wrong of knife sharpening. Now, a mistake that a lot of people make, and I did early on with this knife, because I've had this knife for a very long time, is trying to go like this, trying to go level with the blade to get that edge on there. That's not actually how the edge is formed, and what you end up with there is, I don't know if you can make these out in the light. There you go. All of those little scratches all along the blade, where I completely messed up the finish on this by scraping it all over the place with a stone. My younger self, before I had learned anything about knife sharpening. Yeah, you want to find your actual edge and work on it, not work on the side of the blade. And, you know, we all have to learn somehow, and mine was kind of a trial by fire on basically everything I know. On some of it, literally. By the way, why I am using this one instead of this one, I thought I should go into a little bit of detail there. I already kind of did earlier, but the video didn't save. This one is the coarse one, and it's for kind of like working your edge into place. This one's for for kind of doing the final edge, for getting it down thin and smooth. Well, since this knife already had a bit of an edge, I went ahead and skipped this and moved straight into the fine stone, and so that's why I'm working with this one. I kind of, like I said, I didn't want to just blow over that and you have you scratching your head wondering what this one is. So let's work from there again. This is kind of cool because I can move this stuff around in my hand and not worry about changing my angle because of the guide. Okay, so something I just kind of figured out was that I think I've been going from 2, and that wasn't doing much. I moved up to the, or I guess 25. I moved up to the 30 here. Yeah, it was in this one, and I'm moving up into this one, and I'm seeing a much better edge. I was wrong initially, but this is pretty forgiving. So yeah, this guide is pretty cool. Like I said, I've never really used one of these before. Shouldn't say never really used one. I've never used one of these before. I've seen them. I was aware of them. But as far as cheating goes, this is all right. By the way, I've been doing this for about, I'd say, 10-15 minutes now. I keep slipping. That's probably because of the angle I'm holding it. And I'm also moving a lot faster doing this than I would ever move with the other stone. I usually go much slower, much more gentle. Now that is something about knife sharpening that I think I should mention. Don't ever put any weight into it, is what I found. If you're trying to put muscle into your knife sharpening, you're going to work your edge down and then work it back off again, and you'll never get anywhere that way. Knife sharpening is a very, very delicate thing. You go very gentle, you take your time, and you get it down to a nice edge without putting any weight into it at all. I'm letting the weight of the stone push itself down. I am not pushing down on this. I'm just sliding back and forth, and it takes as long as it takes, and that's how good work is done. Stuff takes as long as it takes. Trying to force it breaks it or does it wrong or whatever. Things are just going to take as long as they take, and patience is ultimately what creates good work. All right, let's give this a little test. Okay, like I said, not one of my best blades or anything like that. This is just some regular old copy paper, and let's. I might have some work still to do on this, but it is, yeah, I've got a while left. I might actually even go ahead and switch to that coarse stone and work from there, because once it gets a bite, it's going. It's not, let's see if I can get that close enough that you guys can see that. Anyway, it's cut and clean. It's not tearing. But I just don't like that it takes me a few tries to get it to bite. That tells me that there's part of my knife. That tells me that my consistency was a little off, which was funny because that's part of what I was preaching about. But yeah, I think it's right in here that it's not. I think I put a little bit more work into the tip. So I'll have to see about that, but I think I'll end my video here and call that good, because you basically get the idea, and then I'll continue on my own time trying to sharpen this knife. This is a decent little set, and I really like that it comes in a carrying case. So that's it just says Smith's, which is easy to remember. But yeah, that's pretty awesome.